Crossing the Line podcast.
Women, Power and Dialogue.
Hi everyone, we are just associates.
And we're here at AWID. Please come by our booth at L11. We're going live with our podcast, so
Stay tuned!
So I chose to participate in this space because I was really longing for some collective care and a place where I could rest and reflect and strategize. So I found this experience very energizing, especially in a very big, busy environment, to be able to take time to dream about the future and how we can get there. It was very nourishing, and I've learned a lot that I will take back with me.
Just the wish of angry men. Ophelia was driven mad. No shit, her lover killed her dad. Just so you know, I'd probably do the same. And you wonder why there's so much feminine rage.
Something I experienced in this space that's different from others or is less common in other spaces is just being able to do this work in our bodies. So I appreciated the grounding and embodied exercises at the start, and also just being able to reflect on the work that we are doing for our own individual lives and how that actually translates to change in broader movements as well.
About them and villainize the victims in our heads. Romeo and Juliet, she wasn't even 14 yet. Her father tried to marry her away. Persephone was forced to go to live with Hades down below, and in the end it's her who took the blame. In every story ever told, it always ends the same. Rage.
We are at the end of the AWID Forum, and today I'm interviewing Phumi Mtetwa. Bienvenida, Phumi Mtetwa. How are you doing?
I am good day. Thank you so much. Tired. It feels like the 4 days were 4 weeks, but beautiful.
We are going to tell our audience a little bit of an assessment of what happened here in AWID and what were the most important things that happened for you here in this process.
I think, like most organizations who prepare to participate in such a huge forum, over 3,800, some say it was 4,000, an organization develops a strategy in terms of like, there's so much on offer, what we want to do. So naturally, JASS also had its own strategy in relation to how we wanted to participate, contribute, show up, and who to meet. And so that is one dimension. The other dimension, I think, that is important is also knowing who would be in the space, what relationships. The other dimension is, of course, knowing who will be in the space, what relationships you have, and what relationships you want to build with people, whether you knew them or you didn't know them or know their work and so on. That was the second part, I think, for us. I think the third part is to also see what is possible to learn that you didn't know in terms of like what struggles are being waged across the globe and what feminist proposals, strategies, and actions are towards those. The fourth one for me is, of course, was important to see how struggles interconnect, because in our local, national, regional expressions of struggle, maybe there are some ways, but what type of a global expression to these struggles shape or take form. I think the last one, of course, it was to see sisters, see friends, see comrades, hang out, have a laugh, dance, and so on. So I think all of those remained important for me as like a mirror of how I experience and live into the AWID Forum. And I think in terms of like, if I have to go back to what these five offered, as JASS, I think we had a strategy, we lived into them. We've just come from a debrief that actually allows us to appreciate what we contributed into AWID, valorize each other and each other's individual and collective contributions, as well as learn from what we were able to do and not able to do, and to also understand why we were not able to do that. I think that's important. The second thing, I think many of us from three regions where we work deeply, Mesoamerica, Southeast Asia, and Southern Africa, we all had our partners that we journey with in our local, national, and regional work that we do. And it was good to see what our partners are doing, how they are showing up to be able to contribute and to be able to learn how they contribute with others outside of our regional context and so on. I think the third thing, in terms of building relationships, there were many new relationships that we forged and many old ones that we, affirmed, strengthened, and many conversations that were happening outside of, let's say, formalized spaces, and also taking space in the formalized space, but not showing in the agenda, like the Black Women's March initiative that we spoke about, that was not necessarily a registered event. And many people we saw donors who remain committed to JASS, and we had conversations with other prospective donors, in relation to our work, and hopefully those relationships will strengthen as we move along. I think the other thing, definitely, a global forum of this nature will have all types of struggles that are happening, where feminists are finding themselves locally, nationally, regionally, continentally, and so forth. One of my most unfortunate things about this forum is that it couldn't enable a space for them to converge in a way in which can allow what is the global feminist expression coming out of AWID. I think there were missed opportunities in relation to that. Maybe caution exercised for AWID not to pronounce itself in relation to a feminist global, but I do think that every forum of this nature that happens has to take advantage. Otherwise, we end up LGBTI here, disabled people here, environment here. It's all in the space, but how those interconnections, more than just saying these are intersecting struggles, but like how do they intersect in reality, in practice, in struggle? I think that was an unfortunately missed opportunity. I can't remember what was the fifth one, but I think it was the fun part. I think inside AWID, you could see that there were many conversations happening in the booths, in the lounges, and so on. People were connecting. It was beautiful, whether it was also in the gala dinner and so on. But Bangkok also offered a space for people to say, let's go eat there, let's go dance there, let's go do this there. And so, yeah, all of that was beautiful, and it makes for an important experience, because both the conversations and the building of, people to people, sister to sister, struggle to struggle relationship don't only happen like in the formalized type of registered spaces.
Phumi, you were at the live schools as well. And what do you think was the thing that sparkled that the live school provided to this forum that has all these categories that you were describing so very well?
In the true way of jazzing that the live schools were, and one part is a lot of our methodologies try to break the notion of a panel and people listening and so on. And that's why we put so much into feminist popular education. Uh, in my mirror, and I didn't see everything of AWID, one of the things that people came to me and appreciated about the Live School was both an experience of what feminist popular education is, on one part, the content that was offered, whether it was on power, on understanding the context, on getting into strategies and how, but also the way in which the life schools were bringing life and were participatory, the group works, the drawing, the writing of the poem in groups, the drawings and so on. I think it's truly giving life to a learning process, an expression of struggle process, an expression of finding others outside of who you would normally find in your national and regional and so on context. That's one. The second thing, I think the life schools being framed around the 4-day thematic themes of AWID was very important because you could see like the connection in relation to how the issues that were happening all over, but giving them a particular way of delving into. Because I think most activists feel like a sense of isolation. It's not because it's COVID lockdown that there's an isolation, but feel a sense of like I organize in my community with the people I always, which is valuable, but like to be able to do that at the world stage with others, it's a particular thing. And using the methodologies that we use and the facilitation that goes with that. There are so much, the room was full every day. I bumped into a number of people who shared, from donors who wouldn't otherwise be in such a space to the most grassroots of activists we work with in Kenya or in Uganda, who experienced like a different vibe, feel, learning, and exchange in the life school. So I do think it was a great offer. We learned a lot ourselves from the life schools that will continue to nourish what we do in our work in regions.
And also there's this thing about methodologies, which is something that is strategical and is very political as well, because methodologies are very simple, but at the same time very profound. And that's what allows people to actually engage in different ways with feminist popular education.
Absolutely.
But what do you think about these methodologies and this offering that we are having here, that we are giving? We are just giving the power guide, for example, and other methodologies that we are sharing.
There's something about feminist popular education, different from popular education, that is really about meeting people, women, feminists, gender diverse folks where they are on one level, and there is a particular important thing of leaning heavily on the knowledge of the people in the room, which often you can lose because once you set up a panel, you suppose expert, you create a power divide, right? There's the expert, the one who knows, and there are the listeners. It's kind of like teacher student type of scenario. And so that is one element when you think about the co-facilitation of that space and the people in the room and living into those methodologies on one hand. The second thing is you could do that on any subject, but just organizing the tools, the offers for activists, for change makers, like our new power guide that has 6-7 chapters in it, that cuts across so many issues, including understanding power in this particular moment of the global configuration, geopolitics, and so on, offering strategies, offering what are narratives, what's the difference between narratives and communication, on leadership, etc., etc. Offering that tool and having that QR code for people to access and download, speaking to those tools and saying you can use and adapt them for yourself in the context, but have a feel, because we can't do everything in 2 hours that we have time allocated. Even if we do it in 4 days, invite us to accompany you in this journey in as much as our capacities enable us. I think it was not only important, we launched the Power Guide in August this year, and we were able to share beyond what we've been able to share in our regions at this AWID about the Power Guide. I think it was quite apt and quite relevant in relation to what was being discussed across the AWID Forum, because we can discuss till, as I say, Jesus comes back. But what are we going to do is the thing about, what a tool like the Power Guide contributes to everything that is being discussed.
And finally, Phumi, how is your heart? What is your feeling about now that everything has ended and it feels like it was 4 years, 4 years instead of 4 days? What is hanging there with you on the feelings?
I'm quite mixed, honestly. I have so much love for the activists, in their own leadership, right? That not only put up like the infrastructure for us to be here, the money that was invested for all of us to be here, what each one came to contribute in this space. I have so much love for all of that, because I think we don't just do such things because it's nice to go to Bangkok. I think we do it because we recognize the importance of a coming together in a moment that allows us to take pulse and pause in relation to what's going on in the world, how is it impacting lives. Where I feel a little bit like I started in a bit of an unfortunate thing is that I don't have a sense at the end of AWID of how globally we think about taking this forward. I know in terms of our work as JASS, I know in terms of our close partners we work with, I know in terms of like some of the regional and cross-continental and south-south exchanges, how we're gonna take this. So I know it within my orbit, how we're gonna take this forward. I would have appreciated, I think, having a sense of like strategically, as the systems of oppression are consolidating themselves against us, how are we thinking about forging, for lack of a better word, a united front as feminists in relation to how the right is winning against all of us and basically making our lives even worse than what it was, and what are the type of defense mechanisms we have, what are the type of struggles we need to wage as we protect ourselves and so forth. So whilst I know it for the context and the spaces that I navigate, I don't have a sense that the strategies around this were occupying an urgent thing. Maybe I'm anxious. Maybe I should just calm down, but I live with that mix, but a combination of a lot of love and a lot of, space of not having like had a good sense in relation to that.
I think that's a shared feeling for many of people that I have been interviewing as well. Because this is a moment, we are in an urgent moment where we are living in a world that it's been present in a genocide, and the lightness of that in the whole world, no amount us about social movements, but among regular people, and how is that possible, or the amount of the right winning all the agendas and the governments. How is that being possible, and what is the contribution that we can do? I think that that's something that makes us worried about not our present, because our present is in danger, but also the future and what it means for the future.
Imagination. I think you are spot on there, and I'm glad many people express this to you, Dave, because our imagination feels arrested in many ways.
Yeah.
It's that, and I think there were some expectations, because you come to a forum hoping for an injection. Whatever struggle you are doing in the country, in your community, you hope for an injection from the global space in terms of like the possibility to imagine what to do. And that was one of maybe the weaknesses. It doesn't mean it was absent, but I feel like it was the weakest part of the forum.
Thank you, Phumi, for this marvelous interview.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to this Crossing the Line podcast special edition. As you see, we're closing with a very special guest and very special analysis. Thank you for listening to us, and see you next time.
Crossing the Line podcast.
Women, Power, and Dialogue.